What's up, guys? Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. We got Lee here, Aiden, me, Clayton, and we got our guest tonight, Zach Sly.
Hello, everybody.
What is up?
How's it going, guys? I'm excited for tonight.
Yeah, tonight's gonna be interesting.
It is going to be interesting because we're kind of actually talking about something that's easily one of the most like common questions I get asked. Actually, do you know that?
Is it really?
Yeah, I really do think whenever you don't know what to talk about or whenever there's kind of a pause in a situation, I feel like this is the conversation that comes up. So what are you watching right now? Like, what are you watching on Netflix? Or it's something that I see, especially on something like Facebook. A lot of people always want advice. Like, all right, I finished watching this. What do I need to watch next? Or, hey, I liked this. What do I need to watch next? So thank you guys for joining in with us. Got a number of people coming in. And I think where we wanted to kind of start tonight was actually, thank you for all of you that submitted some things in on our story today. We were asking about what are you watching, what's worth watching, things like that. We kind of divided it into four of the platforms. We have four platforms, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and Hulu. And we were talking about all the different things that we got in from each of these. And here's where I kind of want to get started, I guess. And that is, of those four, which is the best? Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Hulu. If you could only have one of those, what would you choose and why? So post your comments. Let us know what you're thinking there on all these different ones. And we get to hear from each of us. Aiden, I'm going to throw it to you first. Which one? Why?
Easy, Netflix.
Netflix? Oh, it's easy too. Why?
Yeah. Well, for us, we already kind of like established how many shows we watch on Netflix on the board behind the screen right now. And it is an outstanding number of things that are going on there. But for sure, I've watched a lot more Netflix than I've watched anything else on there. I don't think I have a Disney Plus or Hulu account. I have a Prime account, but I only watch movies on that. And so that's about it.
Gotcha. Clayton, how about you?
I think I'm more of a Disney Plus kind of guy.
Really? Oh, curveball.
Because I like to like go back to my childhood. I feel like I grew up on Disney, so I'm gonna go back to Disney. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So all right. Well, that'll be really interesting then when we get to talking about Disney Plus, because there'll be some things. I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag on me as well. I'm a Netflix guy as well. I have Disney Plus. I want to love Disney Plus. I want to go back to my childhood, which is crazy to think about. Like, it's, you guys grew up on Disney, but different Disney than I did. So all of that, like Lizzie McGuire, even Stevens and stuff like that, Growing Pains, stuff like that that's on there was all my childhood.
Boomer.
Versus you guys are all Zach and Cody and Wizards of Waverly Place and stuff like that.
Yeah, classics.
So, like,
classics.
Yeah.
Vintage.
How is that classic? But like, so that's me, Zach.
Phineas and Ferb.
Which of those four, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Hulu, which of those four would you be picking?
So it might be a little controversial, but I'm going to have to go with Hulu. I think Netflix has the most quantity, and they have a lot of good shows too. They got a lot of quality shows. But I got to choose Hulu like solely pretty much for Euphoria. And then Rick and Morty is pretty good, and it's got This Is Us on there too. And you can get live TV with Hulu, so that's where I'm going.
Gotcha. And the live TV piece is probably a major component. I haven't had live TV probably in about 4 years. So it's been a long time since I've had live TV.
You don't watch Wheel of Fortune?
Oh, that's a great show, though. I love me some Wheel of Fortune.
How would you know you don't have live TV?
I've seen Wheel of Fortune. I've seen Jeopardy. I've seen
Only in the pictures, right?
Price is Right. I never really knew when it was coming on.
In the
but I
black and
liked
white. In the black and white.
Oh, wow.
Back in the good old days.
The back in dial-up internet days.
The telephone.
I do remember those. Yeah. Those were a part of my childhood. I remember, like, I want to say, like, somewhere in elementary school, I remember going to somebody's house and having to use one of those phones. So yeah. So we were talking about these different platforms, and so it'll be interesting. We'll save Netflix actually. Well, okay, let's go ahead and start with the fourth place according to the board and according to our conversation, the one that wasn't mentioned, Amazon Prime. So what's worth watching on Amazon Prime right now? There's only one thing on our board. Did anything that didn't make our board come to mind when you think of Amazon Prime that's worth watching?
Everything that I watch on Amazon Prime is off like a HBO subscription, so I have no idea like
what's actually Amazon Prime and what's not.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I mean, I don't, like I said, I just watch movies on there, so I don't really know.
Yeah. And
I don't know
think
any shows or
it's
anything
a great
like that.
place to go to rent movies for sure. I know I started Veep, the Vice President show, with something Louis Dreyfus. I can never remember her name, but it was pretty entertaining. But then at a certain point, you had to pay for the remaining seasons. So I was like, well, this isn't worth it. But the show that did make the list that somebody submitted for us was Jack Ryan. 100% recommend Jack Ryan if you haven't seen it. Very much. John Krasinski is the star of that one. Plays a very different role than Jim Halpert on The Office. In that one, he works for the government, and it's just a really fascinating show. So it's a military America, that kind of stuff. Just really good stuff there with Jack Ryan to watch that. Let's go over to Disney Plus, because I think that was the third place on our board and in our conversation. What is it you're enjoying over there on Disney Plus?
The classics. So like our generation, I guess. Maybe not. I mean, there is stuff from your generation, but I definitely see like finding old TV shows that I used to watch back when I was in like middle school or whatever, watching back like Sleep Life of Zack and Cody, Wizards of Waverly Place, all that good stuff.
Well, and this is a somewhat good transition. And I did see Austin brought us back to Prime for a second. The Boys, I have seen it, not a family-friendly one whatsoever. Kind of disturbing in so many different ways. But yes, that is on Prime. But yeah, so here's my question for you. Those throwbacks, those classics, what makes them so special for you? Where's the value? Why is it there for you?
I definitely it reminds me of the times when I didn't worry about things.
Oh wow, okay, that's
For
kind of
sure.
deep.
Yeah.
Good old days.
Yeah.
It's all in the nostalgia.
The nostalgia.
All the laughing in the background that's not even real.
Yeah, like you used to think it was such a perfect TV show, but then when you go back through and like watch all these, you're like, why did I ever watch this? Why did I like it? Like it's such bad quality. It's just like things have changed so much. It's crazy.
Well, see, and I know the thing that I like about when I think about those old shows and those old family shows was the whole like I feel like when you go out in real life, like it seems like everybody just pretends everything's great, everybody's family's perfect, things like that. But then you watch these shows and these families that look perfect and things like that, they actually like work through some problems together and things like that. It just is a kind of a oh yeah, life can be messy and you can still work through it. And again, the whole not worrying piece, like back in those days when actually you only thing you thought was things get better. We have some comments coming through right now too. Disney Channel original movies. I know that means something to you guys that's different than it means to me. Like, cause I totally remember like Johnny Tsunami and the
Back in the good old days.
oh, what was the other big, like the one with the Team Pup and Suds and the 13th Year and like all this stuff that's probably all just reruns by the time Halloween Town. I was all about
Okay,
some
Halloween Town. Yes, I remember Halloween Town.
See, the original Halloween Town was when I was a kid though.
Really?
Yeah.
But
So
then
y'all
they
got like
made,
Halloween
like, the
3 and 4
4,
and Halloween High or
But they would,
something like
but they would
that.
always play them in order though. So they'd start with the first one, and they just keep it going.
Exactly.
It's so good.
It's pretty great. All right, and there's a lot of live action original on Disney Plus. Yeah, Mandalorian is wonderful. What are some other ones there? What is I don't know Gravity Falls. What's that one?
Oh,
It's
that's
like-
such a good show.
Yeah, it was back like with Disney XD and stuff like that, right?
Little cartoon.
Yeah.
It was like a mysterious show. It was like a Sherlock Holmes type deal, but like sort of a cartoon kids version.
Yeah.
Interesting, like a Scooby.
It's a lot of dark magic and
Yeah,
stuff like
dark
that. It was
yeah.
really strange.
Gotcha. Interesting. Then Phineas and Ferb is being brought up by
Great
Wrecking
show.
Ball Kearns. Aladdin, those live action ones. So yeah, like Lady and the Tramp was released. All the new live action Disney movies. I've been told they're like releasing like what Onward was supposed to be
That was good.
in the movie theater, but they released it on Disney Plus, which was kind of a big deal because like they pushed Black Widow till way much later. But it was interesting that one they let go through there. I haven't seen it yet, actually.
It was really good.
And the same thing, Frozen 2. I hadn't seen that until it was Disney Plus. So I do appreciate Disney Plus. I would say Disney Plus is probably my number 2. Actually, Prime. I mean, Prime actually not because of the videos, but because of the free shipping. and then Disney Plus is definitely a close second or third there for me. So Zach, we're going to you, man. Talking these Hulu shows. So tell us about. You said there are a few of them that make it completely worth it for you.
Yeah, the big one is definitely Euphoria. I feel like a lot of teenagers and kids our age can kind of relate to that, or even anybody that's gone through that teenage phase and it kind of has understands the issues that go along with it. I feel like Euphoria really addresses that pretty well, and it doesn't sugarcoat it as much as a lot of other shows do. So there's a lot of dark material, pretty heavy stuff in there. But I think that show makes Hulu the best one, pretty much on its own.
Nice. Yeah. And that's what Zach was talking about us a little bit before this. And we talked about how on Amazon Prime, actually, there's a movie called Eighth Grade that I highly recommend. Bo Burnham, who's usually a comedian, was the producer, writer behind that. And just a great show. It gets on the inside of what teenagers are experiencing these days. And when I say teenagers, I'm talking preteen, like 8th grade, and the pressures, particularly for that girl who's the main character, to be involved in different things and be completely innocent, and yet talking about these things that are not innocent. Just an excellent movie. I recommend for anybody to be able to watch that one for sure. Anything else there on Hulu you guys are thinking about when you go down that list that's worth it?
I mean, Drake and Josh is always a classic.
Yeah.
And you said Rick and Morty earlier.
Yep.
What do you like about that show?
Yeah.
Just a good show. Pickle Rick, my man.
Pickle Rick.
Mhm.
Isn't that like one episode though?
Yeah, but still.
It's only one episode, but it makes the whole thing. It makes like that whole series. Let's see what else is on there. It's like
Got Pulp Fiction on there.
Yeah, there's a
Pulp
couple of
Fiction.
movies on there. There's Christmas Vacation, Pulp Fiction.
I can't read Lee's handwriting.
So a show called Atlanta. Are you guys familiar with that one?
That's with Donald Glover, yeah. It's about life in Atlanta, basically.
Gotcha. So yeah, well, that's what's interesting is we've now covered 3 of the platforms and we are only about 10, 11 minutes in. And I feel like we could talk about Netflix forever though, with everything that's out there on the Netflix platform. I mean, if you guys are watching with us, make sure you tell us what is the best, maybe the best top 2, top 3 shows on Netflix. We have a whiteboard full of ones that were submitted today on there. But what is something that people have to all time watch? And meanwhile, let's go ahead and talk about like the different types of stuff. So I started trying to kind of put like things into categories, but like what kind of stuff are you looking for when you go to Netflix? What type of shows? If someone says, what are you watching on Netflix? And they say like, what kind of shows are you looking for? What are you usually looking for when it comes to Netflix?
For me, I like the ones that are like mystery stuff, and you have to like do investigative stuff, and like for me, like I just stopped watching Breaking Bad, and that was like such a good show, and I talked about that earlier with you guys. But like for me, that was like, I know that was like a while ago when it was made and stuff like that, but like for me, that was like really cool because like that's the type of shows that I like to watch, and that's what I kind of came to Netflix for. But I know that there's different varieties, like there's game shows and there's cooking stuff, documentaries, all kinds of stuff on there.
How would you, so Breaking Bad, that's a great one to kind of, how do you categorize that show? What do you call it?
A drama.
A drama?
That's what
but
I would
think
call it.
drama, and I think like
Like a romance drama.
or like yeah. Like a
Soap opera.
Yeah, like well, not soap operas
Hispanic
so much as
soap
just like
operas.
the stuff
General
my mom
Hospital.
watched. You know, yeah, General Hospital is a drama. You know, so so when I think of Breaking Bad, it's like a different kind of drama. But I'm with you. Like it's kind of almost a dark drama in
Yeah.
a sense. It's very real. I'm with you. That's typically my kind of show too. That's why I'm trying to label it. So with it, it's an interesting switch. But somebody already put out there. Melissa was one of the first ones to say, like, have we started talking about Tiger King yet? And here's the exciting thing for you guys, actually. Next week, we're going to dedicate this podcast to Tiger King. So if you haven't seen it yet, number one, ask your parents if it's okay if you watch it.
It's okay. Don't worry. We
and-
give you permission.
Number 2 is that I'm excited to talk about. I think there's a lot to talk about with Tiger King, but I almost group in Tiger King with Breaking Bad, honestly, because there's this kind of dark layer to it for sure, this real life layer to it, and this drama to it as well, which is kind of interesting. The obvious difference being this one was scripted and written, and Tiger King is a documentary.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of like bizarre to think about it that way because it looks so scripted and things like that, but it's just crafted really well together. But like in that genre, I put on the board, like Ozark is a great place to go after Breaking Bad. Once again, Ozark is a show, guys. I'm going to put the qualifier. You have to ask your parents before you watch it. It's a little too real life, but it's basically Breaking Bad in Missouri, and it's just crazy to watch. But they just released third season. I haven't seen that one yet. So a number of things coming through the chats. What are we seeing? Carol Baskin killed her husband, changing my mind. American Horror Story. I have not watched that all the way through, but that probably falls into this genre, I'm guessing. Probably a little more entertainment than like crime and things like that, but that's definitely interesting. Office, Parks and Rec, Shooter. Yeah, Office is one I just made my way through for the very first time. I finished
Finished
this,
that pretty fast.
this Tuesday. I looked at it. It was from March 8th to April 13th. So just a little over a month to finish The Office all the way through. I really appreciated that show. Like, and I now get it. Like when I like watched it when it was live, I was like, this is just dumb humor. Like, why are you doing this? But now I was even telling the staff after a while, I was like, you watch this show and in 1 minute they have you laughing and in the next minute they have you like emotional and thinking about things and you start going like, how did they do that? So Office is a great show. I've been told Parks and Rec is where I need to go after that for sure. Shooter. I do like Shooter. That's one set in Texas. It's got Ryan. I never know how to say his last name. Is it Philip or Philippi? Or Philippe. Anyway,
I can't remember.
but he's a guy who's really good in that. Scooby Doo is apparently on there. Caroline said if anybody wants a true crime thriller, New Girl by from Allie there. Cop crime suspense. I like that word, Corey. Suspense. That's definitely a one there. The Community. I don't know if I know The Community, so that's a good one. And so Austin, maybe next week he will dye his hair. We'll see, to be Joe Exotic from Tiger King. But we do have other things up there. So Breaking Bad, Messiah is one I'll recommend in this kind of thriller suspense type show. It's one that was very controversial. I've talked about it before, but it is so fascinating, the questions it makes you think about. And especially when we think about Jesus, we believe and we accept and just think Jesus walking around as we read the Gospels is just so normal. And like, why not? Why would you not think that he's the Son of God and things like that? This show makes you finally step into the shoes of the people of that time who must have been thinking, is this for real? Is he who he says he is? Is he blasphemous right now? And things like that. Because it is just a fascinating, very well done. There's going to be multiple seasons of it, the way that they left it. So it's a really interesting one to get behind. Dexter was in that one. Again, ask your parents. Like, it's not
Definitely
one
for that one.
I didn't watch it until I think it was recently, until I was like 30. So it's one
asked
that
his
like don't.
parents.
He asked his parents
I
first
did.
too.
I called mom. I said, Mom, there's a show called Dexter. It's rated this. Same thing for a show called
I don't care, Lee. You live on your.
Same thing for a show called Black Mirror. Black Mirror was one that is another one. Ask your parents. It's kind of darker type thing.
That's a must watch in my book.
Yes.
Which one?
It's
Black
a
Mirror.
thinker. It's a thinker. It makes you think. It's really weird in the way it does. So yeah, disturbing. Good word too, Corey. You're full of these good ones. So crime suspense / disturbing is so many of these different ones that we just covered through. But when you just go to crime shows, I've got up there a show called Broadchurch. It's a British one. British crime shows are awesome. If you're into crime stuff, there's some really good one. Broadchurch is an awesome one. Criminal Minds is definitely a big one. I watched my way all the way through that about 2 years ago, finally. Very good one up there. But then there's a number of these on here that I am not familiar with whatsoever. So I'm going to need you guys to walk through some of the ones that are standing out to you on that.
I know it's not a show, but it's a movie on Netflix, The Platform. I just recently watched that. Another viewer discretion one. It's a very, very strange movie. It's like it's set in some prison or whatever, and it's obviously in another language and it's being like translated as it's going. So it's kind of weird when you're watching it because the words that are coming out of their mouth isn't the actual
don't
things they're
match.
saying. Yeah, it doesn't match. So it's kind of hard to watch at first, but as it goes on, it's really strange, and it's almost in that I don't know how you would describe it. It's not like a
Very disturbing.
Disturbing,
it's something
thriller,
like
dark
that.
type thing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's The Platform. Okay.
And
I'd say Mindhunter is another one that really makes you think.
I love Mindhunter. Again, ask your parents. Tell us about Mindhunter, Zach.
Well, I feel like it's kind of similar to Black Mirror in that there's a lot under the surface that you kind of have to process because it's fictional, right? But it's based on real.
Correct. It's kind of it's creative nonfiction. Yeah.
Right. So it's talking about they have this two guys that go in and they're interviewing serial killers to try to figure out how their mind works and why they committed their crime as opposed to like how they did it and all that kind of stuff. So it really dives into like their psychological like mind and how they thought about and like what they thought about when they were going through the crimes that they committed. And it's kind of fascinating to see like how they justified some really terrible things and how they made it seem just very like casual and something they would do every day.
Yeah, totally. So basically, Criminal Minds is all about the actions of the behavioral analysis unit. Mindhunter is the fictional retelling of the starting of the behavioral analysis unit. So you see on Mindhunter them come up with the term unsub. You see them come up with the term profile. And it's kind of how back in the 70s, how hard it was to introduce this idea of psychological profiling. And so it's a very interesting one. But again, super dark because you're in the mind of a serial killer and things like that. Another one that comes to mind we didn't put up there was called The Fall. So that was another one that you're in the mind of a serial killer who's being caught. And again, serial killer, ask your parents. But you actually become kind of sympathetic with the serial killer. Is so bizarre. The journey it takes you on. I believe it's about three seasons there.
Solid. So you ask your mom about everything.
Of course.
If Lee asked his mom, you ask yours.
Exactly.
That's how he does it.
Exactly.
PSA right there.
PSA. Viewer discretion advised.
Well, Clayton, you were talking about the 100 earlier. What was that about?
It's similar to like The Last Civilization or whatever. So I guess it's like a survival. What's that TV show where they land on an island and they're all like
Survivor?
Yes, it's Survivor, I guess.
Survivor show about surviving?
No, but it's not real life. It's like where
Lost?
plane crash. I think it's
That's
Lost.
That's Lost.
So
Yeah.
it's similar to
Haven't
Lost in
seen
a
that
way,
either.
where like they have to live on like a new area, new terrain, because they're from like outer space and they live on a spaceship.
Whoa, dude! Don't spoil the whole.
No, that's the beginning of
That's
it.
just
All right, all right.
that's pilot. That's the pilot episode.
I don't think, and for me, like I watched the 100. It was so hard for me to keep going.
Yeah, it's hard once
It's
you
very,
get after
very
season
hard.
one.
There's a number of them coming through that I'm not even familiar with. So BoJack Horseman was one that apparently is one you need to watch your mom or ask your mom about. I don't know about that one. It's about set as a fun cartoon, but also has a strong message about how celebrities deal with fame, and it's not glamorous. Designated Survivor 1 and 2, and then someone apparently season 3 was not good or something is the message I'm getting there. Blacklist. The newer Joker movie. I want to see that movie.
That's
Actually,
a
I don't know
great
where it's
movie.
at. Where is it on anything yet?
It might be on Prime.
It's probably there on Prime
Prime.
or YouTube TV too.
Gotcha,
Or you can rent it
gotcha.
on YouTube.
Yeah, I definitely want to see that one too.
It's a really good movie.
There's a number of superhero shows up there. The Flash, The Arrow. There's plenty of Marvel stuff. Most of the Marvel stuff on Netflix you need to ask your mom about. But Daredevil's a pretty.
You have to watch
Clean
if you
one.
watch those though. Like I feel like you have to watch all of them end up like Iron Fist and all that.
You need to
stuff.
watch them in the order and things like that. The Defenders is really what's worth it there. I mean, when they all came together, I was like, we need more of this.
That's like the DC world of whenever all of them together. I can't remember what it was called.
Justice League,
No, it was Legends or something like that.
Legend of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah. And then there's this Shameless is up here. I know you have talked about Shameless. I don't know what that one is.
It's definitely not family friendly.
Okay, another one
Not
to
at
ask your
all.
mom. Apparently, everybody's asking shows. Here's some shows that you don't have to ask your mom to watch. Nailed It. Have you seen Nailed It?
Is that the baking show?
The baking show. It is
Yeah.
hilarious. So it is. I almost guarantee you that they didn't think it was going to go past season 1. My family stumbled on it around Christmas time when they had a Christmas edition one. Not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before. And it is hilarious. So you take. It's not like normal cooking shows that have like these professionals. You take people who don't know how to bake and then try and make them recreate a professional dessert.
It's so bad.
It's hilarious. So like they'll leave out ingredients. They can't decorate with the stew, like things like that. It's
Or the
awesome.
stew.
Yeah, and the host is always it's similar to here actually. So you have like the main host who's really fun and entertaining. Then you have kind of like this cook, that's supposed to be like the expert, and then you have a guest person every single time. It's really great. So it's and the judge Jacques. Gets skinny throughout the whole thing. It's kind of crazy.
Gets skinny.
But they have their own little nuances, their own little wins. If you haven't seen Nailed It's great. And apparently all the cooking shows are the ones you don't have to ask your mom about. Great British Baking Show. I haven't seen it, but that's a good one. And another one that is about fancy people that know how to cook things. Zumbo's Just Desserts. Have you seen this one? Mm-hmm. So it's set in Australia, and it's all the best like pastry dessert making people, and it's actually really good to watch. It's really cool. It was similar to how like there was a show called Face Off. Have you ever seen that? The movie makeup, like they create creatures and different things like that.
Yeah,
So
I've seen it.
It felt like watching that, but for desserts. Like that's kind of how I felt. Sherlock is awesome. I can't believe I didn't put that on the board, Austin.
Which one?
The
so
the
many.
British one.
There's a lot of British ones.
Doctor Strange. Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
When he's Sherlock, it's awesome. I wish they would continue that. I have no idea why they haven't continued that. Maybe because he went into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Disney cooking host, hosted by Angela from The Office. I don't know that one. You're gonna have to tell me that one.
Angela and Pam are doing a podcast now.
They are the Office Girls. Mm-hmm. Yep. So I had a friend that was walking through that while rewatching The Office, and they beat me. Like they were listening to a podcast and watching it and beat me.
Dang.
Yeah, I was not. I was just watching it.
Seems like a lot of the shows up there have a lot to do with like crime or really dark topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know what that says about us. Well,
We like it.
let's
The dark generation.
Let's talk about it. So, like, why? And this is a good one for you guys at home to help us out with too. I don't know Hunter by Hunter or Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, but let's talk about it. Why do you think we want to watch things that we might consider more dark, or the crime, or the murder mystery type stuff? I mean, this is a good one to kind of reflect on before we kind of take ourselves home. Like, what do you think? Why do we go to that kind of stuff? I have theories, but I want to hear from you guys.
I feel like it's kind of a taboo subject, even though it's mainstream in media. None of us like really participate in like crimes like that much, like stuff like that. So I feel like seeing that in television is kind of us living vicariously through them and doing all of these like really horrible things that we would never consider doing ourselves, but like some part of us, because it's like a forbidden thing, like subconsciously kind of wants to do. You know what I mean?
Interesting. No, that is kind of fascinating. I like that.
Zach pretty much took the words out of my mouth.
Really? So it's a kind of like you watch a serial killer because they're doing something you would never do.
Right. And the complete like opposite like morals of that is like interesting, I guess.
Well, and that's why it's fascinating a lot of times in shows like Dexter or whatever, where you feel like the serial killer has morals.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wait, how do you do? I could never in my life dream about doing that. How can you do that? Things like that. What do you got, man? Why are we attracted to the darker, weird stuff?
Because we're freaks. At least I'm a freak.
Yes.
No, I mean, I don't know. It just always seems intriguing, I guess, in a way, the same way they think it. But like, it's just, there's always that mystery, I guess, of what's our normal compared to that normal.
Gotcha.
So it's just like off your path, but it's just strange just to see that this other stuff is possible of happening.
Well, and it's interesting. You use a word that ties into my theory, and that word is normal. And so for me, like for whatever reason, I love crazy. I love when you get to see crazy, when you get to witness crazy, things like that. I don't think I'm afraid of crazy, but I'm sure when crazy's standing in front of me, I'm a lot more cautious. But I'll take you back to my high school years, and this is maybe a good way to take us home too. Like my favorite author in high school all the way through college, did my senior project on her actually, was a girl named Flannery O'Connor. Have you heard of that name before?
Yes.
Heard it.
Yeah. So you probably read some of her short stories in American literature because it's part of the anthology, things like that. So she did Good Man Is Hard to Find. Good Country People. These were the ones that were in my books growing up. But Flannery O'Connor was actually born and raised in Georgia, Milledgeville, Georgia. And she was a Catholic writing in the Protestant South. So her works would always kind of, what she said, was kind of haunted by Jesus in a sense, haunted by Christ. And it was what she would do though, is she would paint, like the stories would have some of the weirdest, strangest things, but they were real. You know, so the weirdest, strangest people, but they were real, and they were their own version of normal. And I think that's what's the attraction for me in these shows too, is that this stuff, it seems like it's just entertainment, but the reality is it's real. So actually, you just finished Breaking Bad, right? Mm-hmm. So how about this? How does this make you feel? The writers of Breaking Bad said they actually had to hold back from real life when they made that show.
Really?
They had to hold back. Like, so just like, what? Because that's my thing, is this is real life. And I think, I don't know, I don't think it's the pastor in me, but there's some sort of faith piece in me that goes, yeah. And that's a lot of brokenness, isn't it? There's a whole lot of real broken, fallen stuff in this world. Well, that's why Tiger King, okay, great transition into next week. Tiger King was fascinating for me because it was real. And the part that got me is this new episode that came out that kind of follows it afterward. The people that worked there were asking him like, well, do you think he should be where he's at now? And they say, well, yeah, that man's evil. And like you and I, we don't use that word evil all that much, but for them, and this is just the final episode is them like FaceTiming basically with some of the people that are in the show, following up after the release of it and things like that for those that haven't seen it. And for them to just be like, they're talking about real life. This is not scripted. This is not anything. For them to use that was like, yeah, like evil is a very real thing, which makes me go like, yeah. And that means like what we do, what we think about, what we talk about is also vitally important to our conversation, the way we perceive reality, and that there's an answer to evil. There's a response to it, to brokenness and things like that. So I don't know. I think that's the reason why I kind of think it is that it is real. It is normal. It is, and whether it's normal in the sense of The Office or normal in the sense of Tiger King, I find normal fascinating. So that's kind of where I land with you guys. Any thoughts from you guys?
I'll say with Mindhunter that when they interview the guy, he gives like his thought process, and especially with the first one they interview, the way he's very he can explain himself and his thought process very well, and the way he explains everything makes it sound like you can follow his logic. And although like there are definitely like flawed parts and it ends up in like a very bad place, you can see like what led him to commit the crimes and why he felt justified in doing that. And a lot of that had to do with like his childhood and how his mother treated him and like stuff like that.
Exactly. There's a show, I'm a Killer, on Netflix, and they do the same thing. So you're talking to all these people who are on death row, and you start kind of empathizing with them and seeing how they got there. And I think that's just such a healthy exercise, though, too, to be able to think that way, not to agree with them, it's the same thing in any conversation you have, but not to agree with them, but to see how they got there or where they got there, empathize. But that doesn't mean you adapt it or take it on, which is where the controversy comes in that show for sure.
Right.
Where are you landing at, Aiden Clayton?
I feel like a lot of those shows kind of show us how people can be human still. And there's a human side to a lot of the crimes and stuff like that are being committed. And I feel like a lot of the time we kind of take that out of context and we just categorize them as all the same, bad people. They're just bad people, so they're just going to do bad things. They're going to commit crimes, and that's how they're going to be. And there's nothing behind that. And I feel like that's what we kind of fall into a lot in society, is that we just categorize people in that they're just criminals, and there's no background behind that.
Yeah. I definitely see that. And then like one more movie to kind of piggyback on that, Irishman. You see that on Netflix? I know your mom mentioned it to me.
Yeah.
So Irishman was one that kind of freaked me out, actually. And it's not even close to dark like this stuff, but it's about people in the mob and people that just killed people. Like when the mob says, kill somebody, you kill somebody. And for them, there wasn't a reason why they were the way they were, but they were able to go walk down the street and just, hey man, like, you know what I mean? And there's that kind of stuff in the movie that just freaks me out. Like, how can you so disconnect and kill someone like that without rationale. And you just say, oh, it's because someone told me to do it. But again, I watch it and I'm kind of like, well, that's real. That's reality for some people. So it kind of fascinates me a little bit too. Yeah. What a dark conversation. We talked about what shows are you watching. We went into a lot of crime shows and things like that. And it's kind of a little terrifying when you start to really look into it. I mean, but asking good questions. Next week, we got Tiger King. So we were talking about that. If you haven't seen Tiger King, definitely watch it.
Ask your mom.
Ask your mom, 100%. Went down in Oklahoma, so it's kind of interesting everything from that. But we'll have a good conversation about that next week. Hope you enjoyed our conversation about Netflix, about entertainment in general, and check us out. Give us some suggestions for topics. We'll be sitting here tomorrow at Coffee Talk on YouTube live. So join us there.
10:30.
Until then. We'll see you next week at Let's Talk About It.
Yep. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.